Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. So DXOMark has their list of top 10 Olympus and Panasonic primes, basically your micro four thirds primes. They've used the Olympus OMD E-M5 and the Panasonic GH3 for their test results. These you can pretty much extrapolate across the board for most micro four thirds, although they do perform differently on different cameras. As you'll see on the DXOMark lists themselves, they score a little differently on each camera, but in general I think this is a good ranking for how these lenses are, and it gives you a pretty good idea if you're looking for some quality lenses. So let's get to it. Top 10 DXOMark micro four thirds lenses. No surprise really, at the top of the list is the Olympus 75mm f1.8. This scores a 27 on DXOMark, which is the highest score of all 10 of these lenses. It's a very, very nice lens. I have a few friends that have this, and they just swear by it. Most people do. You watch the reviews, and people are just infatuated with this lens. Very creamy bokeh, however you want to say that, and the sharpness is incredible. At $8.99, it's actually not a bad price. One of the more expensive micro four thirds primes, but really when you look at an equivalent prime in a standard DSLR, you'd be paying something similar for something this good as well. So really, really nice lens there. So number one, Olympus 75mm f1.8. Number two, Panasonic Leica Summilux, the 25mm f1.4. Again, no surprise here that it's up in the top because this is a phenomenal lens. A lot of people like it. I went for myself the Panasonic 20mm f1.7 as a very viable alternative to this at less cost. The Summilux is not cheap. It's $579 at launch price, and I think it's still sitting around there if you check on Amazon and other sites. Great lens. No surprise, it's number two. Number three, the Olympus 45mm f1.8. This was probably my favorite lens for micro four thirds. They've got it listed at $389. I think that's comparable to what I paid for it. I may have got a little bit better deal overseas. I think I bought mine off eBay. In any case, 45mm f1.8 gives you an effective 90mm when you factor in the 2x crop of the 4/3 system, and just a beautiful lens. Beautiful lens. I really liked the focal range. Extremely sharp. Great out of focus areas in the backgrounds. Awesome portrait lens. This was my number one favorite lens. If I was going to buy one prime and a good zoom, it would be this prime, the 45mm f1.8. So no surprise here that DXOMark has it number three. Number two, we've got the Olympus 17mm f1.8. Again, no surprise. It's been reputed to be a great lens. It is kind of pricey. It's they've got it down at $500, and I think that's about what it would be going for if you look on B&H or Amazon, the various sites. To me, I don't need a 17mm f1.8 wide angle. Now, mind you, 17 on a 2x is, you're into the you're almost up to a 40, into 35 to 40 range. But I found it to be, for myself and the way I shoot, just wasn't something I was going to invest in because it wasn't something I needed. I can use a zoom at that range and not be really feeling I was missing the speed of the lens. Primarily because if I'm going to be shooting something that wide, it's probably in good light. I'm certainly not using that as a portrait lens. So that was number four. Number five, the Olympus 12mm f2. And again, really good lens, but very pricey, and even wider than the 17. So for me, not something I was interested in, but it ranks number 5 in DXOMark's list, and it is obviously a very good lens. I haven't heard any negative on the reviews about that. Next, we got the Sigma 60mm f2.8, the micro 4/3. One of Sigma's first entries into the 4/3 lenses, and a very good lens, and one of the few micros available for 4/3. So that's a good option too for you folks. Next up, that would be, I guess, 7 is the Olympus 60mm f2.8 macro. So that's Olympus's version of that, and it's interesting that they're ranking Sigma above Olympus in that situation, especially considering the Sigma is about half the price. It's at launch they have it as $239. It was $499 for the Olympus, so Very interesting there. Next up, we have the Sigma 30mm f2.8. Another one of Sigma's 4/3 lenses. Nice to see the Sigma's ranking that high. I know the 30mm f1.4 on the DSLR side has been quite a good lens, providing you have a good copy. I guess there were some not great copies out there. But there we go. Sigma f2.8, 30mm. Panasonic Leica 45 f2.8. And it's a macro as well. So there are some macro options here. $668 at launch for price, a little bit higher, and surprisingly quite far down the list for a 2.8 lens that's a macro. You would think it would be ranking a little higher than this in comparison to, let's say, the 75 f1.8 from Olympus, which is a 27 overall mark. We're looking at a 17 overall mark for that, which is quite surprising. I'm surprised at the gap in the range there. But anyways, in the top 10, that one there is number 7. So number 8 is no, sorry, that's number 8. That is number 8. Number 9, the Olympus 17mm 2.8, about a $300 lens, and that's ranking in at number 9. And number 10 is that interesting little gem, the Olympus 15mm f8 body cap lens. That about a $79 lens. I think you can even find it for cheaper than that. And pretty cool little lens to have for a nominal price. Gives you a nice wide lens at 15, and probably a pretty decent walk-around lens if you don't mind f8. I mean, if you're outside in good daylight, then it's not an issue, right? So there's your top 10 from DXOMark. The Olympus 75mm f1.8, the Panasonic Leica 25mm f1.4, Olympus 45mm f1.8, Olympus 17mm f1.8, Olympus 12mm f2, 60mm Sigma, the Olympus 60mm, the Sigma 30mm, the Panasonic Leica 45 f2.8, the Olympus 17, and the Olympus 15 body cap lens. So, out of all those for a prime, my recommendation for you would be the 45mm f1.8 from Olympus. My favorite lens, hands down. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Let me know if you have any comments, suggestions. Do you have one of these lenses more favorite of yours than my favorite, the Olympus 45mm f1.8? Let me know. Comments, suggestions, agreements, disagreements. We'll talk to you soon here at artoftheimage.com. We'll keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of photography here at artoftheimage.com. Thanks a lot.